On the journey, Wang Chong learned a great deal about the world of sex from Song Yuran. The more he interacted with her, the more Wang Chong realized that while Song Yuran had her bouts of craftiness, she was a good-hearted person who was very honest and straightforward. Hasn't there been no news of the supreme and infinite origin immortal art for several hundred years? It's even been publicly acknowledged in the world of sex that this art has already been lost. Why has it suddenly been found? And even the origin immortal mountain has been discovered as well? And why have so many experts been drawn in? Wang Chong asked Song Yuran as they journeyed. This, in truth, we also found it strange. For such an amazing treasure, the fewer people that know, the better, but so many people have gathered here. But I've also learned lately that someone has apparently found the real treasure map to the Origin Immortal Palace and followed the map to this place. But this person wasn't careful enough and was spotted by someone else or discovered by an enemy. And these people intentionally leaked this news to remove their enemy. In the world of sex, this sort of thing is far too common. Seeing that young Master Qingyang had little understanding of the world of sex, Song Yuran patiently explained. But unlike the other factions, our righteous alliance didn't come here only for the Origin Immortal Palace. Oh! Wang Chong feigned surprise as he glanced at Song Yuran. Heh! Does young master know of that number one man of the evil path whose very name made people tremble in fear, the demonic emperor? Song Yuran asked. Of course I know. Wang Chong faintly chuckled. That's good. The demonic emperor back then was unbridled and unstoppable. His personality cruel and tyrannical, and everyone in the world of sex feared him. Later on, due to a momentary intersection of fates, the experts of all the major sects joined together and killed this demon of the evil path. But not long ago, someone saw him with their own eyes. This demon of the evil path is still alive, and he appeared in this region. Our righteous alliance is tasked with leading the people and serving as a model. No matter what, we must exterminate this demon so that the people no longer have to be tormented by it. Song Yuran sternly said, her face radiating righteousness. Although she was prone to the occasional trickery, in the face of great injustice, Song Yuran always understood where she stood. Wang Chong said nothing, but he was inwardly contemplative. Back then, his master truly had been a ruthless killer, and Song Yuran was not making unjust accusations. However, his master had greatly changed and was no longer that cruel man. Moreover, a teacher for a day was a father for a lifetime. Wang Chong would never agree to someone striking at his master. It's just up ahead. Song Yuran looked up to a nearby mountain. Wang Chong followed her gaze and saw a mountain that rose some 60 to 70 meters above the ground. There were banners fluttering all over the mountain, all of them depicting the same symbol of the white crane and yin-yang symbol. At the summit was the largest banner of all, standing more than 20 meters tall as it flapped in the wind. At intervals of every 5 or 6 meters, there was a sentry post, and countless disciples of the righteous alliance warily surveyed their surroundings, hands pressed to their swords and ready to strike. As Wang Chong and Song Yuran were observing the mountain, the righteous alliance disciples on the mountain had also noticed them. Senior sister, with a loud shout, a youth of 17 or 18, an excited look on his face, left his sentry post and rushed to the pair. Little Yi. Song Yuran hastened her pace as she spotted this disciple. Heh! Wang Chong faintly smiled at this sight, but he did not follow. This righteous alliance truly lives up to its reputation as the number one alliance of the realm. It really is a powerful force. Wang Chong carefully inspected the place. This temporary base of the righteous alliance had at least 500 righteous alliance disciples. Wang Chong roughly estimated that more than 300 were at the profound martial realm or above, 40 to 50 were at the imperial martial realm, and as for Saint Martial realm, there were 17 or 18 such experts, and it was obvious that this was not the entirety of the righteous alliance's strength. In the military, profound martial realm was enough for one to be an ordinary general, or imperial martial realm for the incredibly outstanding generals. At the Saint Martial realm, one could be a commander on the level of Shi Yuanqing. Even Wang Chong couldn't help but be startled at the number of experts gathered on this small mountain in the northwest. Everyone says that the world of sex is a place of crouching tigers and hidden dragons. This righteous alliance is merely a miniature version of the world of sex, and it has already managed to gather so many experts in the Northwest. One can only imagine how many martial artists there are in the entirety of the world of sections. Wang Chong was overcome with emotion. He couldn't help but feel some pity over the fact that sect martial artists were solitary characters that occupied a completely different world from the imperial court. One dynasty after another had tried to recruit the martial artists of the sects, but all of them had failed. Otherwise, the situation would be entirely different. "Who's that?" A voice suddenly interrupted Wang Chong's train of thought. Wang Chong raised his head and saw that Song Yuran and that Righteous Alliance disciple were looking at him from the mountain. "Young Master Qingyang here, hurry!" Song Yuran waved at Wang Chong. "What? He's young Master Qingyang?" The Righteous Alliance disciple next to her called in alarm, disbelief on his face. Wang Chong faintly smiled and hurried up the mountain. "Young Master Qingyang? You're young Master Qingyang." The youth ran around Wang Chong, his face still in disbelief. "You can't believe it, right? I also didn't dare to believe it when I first met him. Young Master Qingyang's guard got lost, so I invited him to stay with our Righteous Alliance for now. It's fine if you're the only one who knows about this. Don't let anyone else know." Song Yuran giggled. She had also been surprised and shocked when she first learned this news. "Right, young master, this is my younger brother, Song Ju. He's one of your admirers and is always yelling at me about how he wants to meet you." Song Yuran giggled. Wang Chong silently smiled at this pair of siblings. "Junior sister, has a guest come to our Righteous Alliance?" As the three of them were chatting, a cold and aloof voice came from above like a peal of thunder. A few moments later, swish, a figure leaped down from the summit, flying through the sky like a bird before turning in midair and making a graceful arc in the sky. Boom! In a flash of light, the figure descended at a place some 50 to 60 meters from Wang Chong. The mountain quaked and dust roiled. Immense energy radiated from that snow-white figure, stirring up a vast gale. Cough, cough. The oncoming dust immediately caused that youth called Song Ju to start coughing, his face turning red. Meanwhile, Song Yuran backed up several steps and warily stared at the man who had just appeared. "Ji Andu, what are you doing?" Song Yuran clenched her fists and spread her feet apart, one in front and one behind. She seemed to become a taut bow, ready to be loosed at any moment. A voice came out of the churning dust. "Junior sister, where did you go? The Northwest is a dangerous region at this time. I sent people to escort you, but you refused them. What if something happens to you? And who is this brother? How come I've never seen him before?" As the man who had descended from the sky spoke, he suddenly turned to Wang Chong, his thin and narrow eyes exploding with killing intent. Wang Chong was rather taken aback by this killing intent, but then he understood and inwardly chuckled. This person had inexplicably begun to regard him as a rival in love. Wang Chong subtly took 2 steps back. He had only followed Song Yuran to the Righteous Alliance to see what it was about and see if he could glean any news on the location of his master or the supreme and infinite origin immortal art. As for anything else, he did not want to get too involved. But a moment later, Wang Chong felt something strange from the man and grimaced. "Ji Andu, who needs your protection? I can bring back and be friends with whoever I want. I don't need your concern." Song Yuran was clearly enraged by this man called Ji Andu. "Junior sister, don't say such angry words. I am a protector of the Righteous Alliance and a disciple of the Alliance Lord. If a suspicious person enters the Alliance, I have the authority to investigate them. Moreover, the elders have already given the approval for our relationship. What reason do you have to refuse me?" The man placed his hands behind his back and held his head high. He spoke with a domineering and arrogant tone. "Don't talk nonsense. This isn't anyone suspicious, but one of the 4 young masters, young Master Qingyang." A shrill voice came from next to Wang Chong. Song Ju, his fists clenched, had spoken up in protest. "Young Master Qingyang?" Ji Andu's eyes flashed and he grimaced. He fiercely glared at Wang Chong. What young Master Qingyang? Who in the world of sex has actually met young Master Qingyang? Until his identity is verified, who would dare to say that he is actually young Master Qingyang? In my view, he is extremely suspicious. Enda waved his hand and firmly ordered, "Someone, bring this young Master Qingyang up to the summit. I want to have a good, long chat with him." "Yes, Protector." Several Righteous Alliance disciples bowed and strode forward. "Endu, you dare." The figure stepped in front of Wang Chong and glared back at Endu. Song Yuran was red from rage, her body trembling. This was not the first time this bastard had done something like this. By relying on his status as protector and the favor of the Alliance Lord, he had mercilessly suppressed anyone who was closely associated with her. "I don't need you to concern yourself with my affairs. Just who do you think you are? What does it matter that you killed the demonic emperor? I want nothing to do with a traitorous disciple like you. The demonic emperor old man committed many evils, but a hypocritical and treacherous disciple like you is little better." Rumble. Song Yuran's words set off shockwaves in Wang Chong's mind. It's him. Peals of thunder exploded in Wang Chong's heart. The familiar aura he had sensed from the man across from him had given Wang Chong his suspicions. And now, Song Yuran's words had confirmed the identity of this man. Wang Chong had never imagined that he would meet his mysterious senior martial brother here. Truly enemies meeting on a narrow road. I didn't think it would be him. Wang Chong raised his head. A cold light subtly flashed in the depths of his eyes, and his attitude became entirely different. He had previously been treating this man as one of Song Yuran's suitors, but things were different now. Wang Chong had imagined countless times what his first meeting with this martial brother of his would be like, but he had never imagined it like this. He began to carefully inspect his senior brother. His narrow eyes were cold and harsh. His brows were sharp and stern, giving off the sense of someone who would make trouble at any moment. He had a nose with a high bridge and a handsome face. In every individual aspect, this was a handsome and elegant man, but the overall feeling he gave was one of indescribable delicateness, or some bizarre snake or worm crawling along the ground. Cackalack. Within his sleeves, Wang Chong's fist clenched as killing intent welled up. It would seem that regardless of how today ended up, he would have to clean house for his master. Buzz. Wang Chong had just gotten this idea when, on the other side, Endu's expression shifted, and he turned his head to glance at Wang Chong. "Protector G." At this moment, a shout came from the summit. At that moment, 6 or 7 Righteous Alliance experts of the Saint Martial realm used their movement techniques to approach Endu's location. "We've just received word from Elder Ouyang. The Black Een ancestor of the 5 Ancestor Alliance is using the absence of the Alliance Lord to attack us." These people had panicked and worried expressions. "What?" Endu and Song Yuran both paled at this news. The Black Een ancestor possesses astonishing strength, and though he might not have been comparable to the demonic emperor back then, he was still in the top 5. Our group is simply no match for him. We'll have to create a formation and combine all our strengths in order to fight with him. Pass on my order. Tell everyone to prepare for battle. As Endu spoke, he rushed back up the mountain, followed by the other experts of the Righteous Alliance. Song Yuran turned to Wang Chong and worriedly said, "Young Master Qingyang, you should leave first. Although Endu is treacherous and cunning, he knows the power of all the experts of the evil path like the back of his hand, as he was also once a disciple of the evil path. If he says that our strength is not sufficient, then that must be the case. I originally wanted to have you enter the Alliance and assist you in finding your guard, but that doesn't seem possible now. The Black Een ancestor is an extremely powerful figure, and I don't want to drag you down. You should hurry and go." After all, young Master Qingyang had saved her, and Song Yuran did not want to drag him into her affairs. The worried look on Song Yuran's face immediately improved Wang Chong's impression of her. He had actually never planned to stay for very long in this place, but this new development actually made him unwilling to leave. At the very least, Wang Chong had to ensure Song Yuran's safety. Wang Chong glanced in the direction Endu had left and said to himself, "Alas, I'll have to let him go for now." As a betrayer of his master, Endu had to be killed, but there would be plenty of time for that in the future, at least before the origin Immortal Mountain was found. Rumble. At this moment, the dark clouds to the east began to roil and rumble with thunder. This sudden development drew everyone's attention. Rah! A bestial roar resounded through the sky, and then a monster the size of a small mountain broke out of the clouds and began to head toward the mountain upon which the Alliance had set up its base. Qilin? Wang Chong glanced over and immediately paled, his eyes going wide. This monster that had appeared out of the clouds, more than 10 meters tall, was clearly a dreadful black Qilin. Its body was muscular and densely covered in black scales, and its tail was constantly swinging in the air, seemingly imbued with infinite power. It seemed like even this mountain could be battered to pieces by this tail. Wang Chong had a great deal of experience and had fought against many experts, even a subtle realm expert like Kateba, but this was the first time he had ever seen a technique that would allow one to transform into a black Qilin. Although he could not see the true body of the person within this Qilin, Wang Chong could tell that this technique was immensely powerful. And putting aside its power for a moment, the martial arts of the world of sex were truly far more exquisite than those used on the battlefield. It's Elder Ouyang. Cries of shock came from the mountain. Take up formation. With this order, the 500 to 600 experts of the Righteous Alliance ringed the mountain and quickly completed a gigantic formation. The air suddenly became tense as countless swords were aimed toward the sky, gleaming with cold light. This was the first time Wang Chong had ever seen a battle of the world of sections. Suddenly, Wang Chong shifted his gaze and saw Song Yuran and Song Ju heading up the mountain. Smiling, he swiftly followed. Boom! At almost the same moment, the giant black Qilin crashed into the summit like a meteor, unleashing an explosion of dust and gravel. Assume the formation. Prepare for battle. A stentorian voice came from the black Qilin, brimming with deep concern. A few moments later, a flood of vicious energy swept toward the mountain. A massive claw covered in black scales probed out of the dark clouds to the east. The 5 claws were like hooks, all of them extremely sharp and infused with indescribable evil. Roar! A massive roar resounded through the world. A massive beast head emerged, but after only a few moments, it disappeared back into the clouds. But this brief glimpse was enough to strike fear into everyone's hearts. Cries of alarm rang out as countless people on the mountain backed up, some people even losing their footing and falling over. The orderly formation on the mountain immediately fell into disorder. The Black Een Ancestor. It's the Black Een Ancestor. Righteous Alliance disciples wailed, their faces pale and frightened. It's a dragon head. Wang Chong, standing not far behind Song Yuran, suddenly turned solemn. He had clearly seen what had happened. The beast head that had peered out of the clouds was that of a savage black dragon. The Black Een Ancestor that the Righteous Alliance spoke of was apparently much stronger than Elder Ouyang. That black dragon avatar was enormous beyond belief. At this moment, a sinister voice resounded over the sky like a peal of thunder. Ha ha! Ouyang Changheng, you think you can run? This ancestor will deal with all the disciples of your Righteous Alliance today. Rumble! In a burst of light, the clouds burst open, and then a black dragon more than 50 meters long and 10-some meters tall shot out of the clouds in a streak of black light. Careful! Watch out! The black insects men are on the ground. Sharp cries of warning came from the summit. Beneath the Black Een Ancestor's dragon form were nearly 100 black-robed experts of the Black Een sect, all of them shooting like lightning bolts toward the Righteous Alliance base. The Black Een Ancestor was anything but alone on this assault. Ha ha! Ouyang Changheng, all of your Righteous Alliance disciples will die today, the Black Een Ancestor loudly proclaimed. You dare! On the summit, Ouyang Changheng was infuriated. A moment later, the giant black Qilin shot into the air at the black dragon. You were already defeated once. Even if you come again, you're still no match for this ancestor. The entire length of the black dragon was spewing black clouds, making it seem like a being of absolute evil. It waved its tail, and then 2 figures exuding boundless energy shot toward the summit like comets. It's the protectors of the Black Een sect. Stop them. Anxious voices came from the mountain. Wind shrieked through the base as 7 or 8 of the Righteous Alliance's top-class experts flew through the air toward the Black Een sect protectors. Bang! A few moments later, the Black Qilin clashed with the Black Dragon in the air. Bang bang bang. Claws tore and jaws snapped. Powerful stellar energy collided in the air, creating vast and powerful shockwaves. For several thousand feet around the two, the air was compressed into fierce waves that surged and howled. Those disciples on the mountain below with somewhat weaker cultivations or foundations were simply swept off their feet. And even more of the Righteous Alliance experts were forced back by the waves of energy. Clang clang clang. At almost the same moment, the clashing of weapons rang out from the middle part of the mountain. The 2 Black Een sect experts that the Black Een ancestor had thrown down from the sky were slaughtering their way through the mountain like tigers amongst sheep. Using their movement techniques, they lunged left and right, leaving a series of afterimages behind them. They had no intention of facing the Righteous Alliance experts. Bastard! The eyes of the Saint Martial experts of the Righteous Alliance turned red with rage at this sight. The packed disciples on the mountain had now become their greatest barrier. As for the Black Een sect, its smaller numbers allowed them to be more flexible and freer, and they ran unbridled amongst the Righteous Alliance disciples. These evil path disciples are truly formidable. Purely in terms of tactics, these people are extremely sharp and penetrating, choosing the best method to maximize their damaging power. Wang Chong acted as a spectator to the battle of evil and righteous, and his mind was abuzz. By sending only 2 experts, the Black Een sect had thrown the Righteous Alliance forces on the mountain into disarray. And they did not linger in battle, allowing them to maximize the amount of damage they could inflict. Ready! At this moment, the Righteous Alliance disciples on the mountain finally responded. As Wang Chong coldly observed, they began to gather into formations on the mountain slope. In a flash of light, stellar energy surged out of one Righteous Alliance disciple and disappeared into the body of a second Righteous Alliance disciple, and then stellar energy erupted out of this second disciple and rushed toward a third. In the blink of an eye, the stellar energies of 10 some Righteous Alliance disciples had fused together, and a small sword formation took shape. The target of this sword formation was the Black Een ancestor in the sky and the 2 Black Een sect experts on the ground. Boom boom boom. One sword formation after another was activated on the mountain, each of them independent yet connected. Attack! A moment later, the earth began to crack and groan as the several dozen sword formations fired off several hundred sharp swords that turned into pillars of light that soared at the Black Een ancestor in the air. For a moment, the entire world was quiet and time seemed to stop. Even Wang Chong had lost his faint smile, his expression turning grave and solemn. This was the first time he was seeing the mass attack methods of sect disciples, and all of this was new and fresh, completely unlike the battlefield tactics he was familiar with. The connections between the sect disciples were simple, nimble, and effective, allowing each person to use the most power possible. In the face of this attack, even the Black Een ancestor couldn't help but show a hint of dread. The dragon shifted left and right, its tail swinging here and there. Bang bang bang. The numerous swords were almost all knocked away, barely any of them able to actually strike the Black Een ancestor. And the Black Een ancestor's stellar energy was so powerful that some of those flying swords were obliterated on impact. Although the Black Een ancestor seemed unrestrained, Wang Chong could tell that he was doing his utmost to avoid the full power of those several dozen sword formations. Despite this, however, the Righteous Alliance was still not faring well. Kyle! Kill the people of the Righteous Alliance! Battle cries rang out from the base of the mountain. In these few moments, the Black Een sect experts had reached the foot of the mountain. Watch out! Have 20 sword formations stop the Black Een sect disciples at the foot of the mountain. A sharp cry rang out, and Wang Chong was shocked to see Song Yuran taking command over the Righteous Alliance disciples. Boom boom. Furious roars could be heard as the Righteous Alliance disciples hastily turned to battle with the Black Een sect disciples at the foot of the mountain. With a heaven-shaking boom, floods of white and black collided. As the two forces met, the battle immediately reached a white-hot intensity. Plush plush plush. Blades plunged into flesh, and before some of the Righteous Alliance disciples could even react, they dropped to the ground, their bodies run through. Upon seeing this, the people on the mountain instantly paled. Hurry and inform the Alliance Lord and our martial uncles. Only if they come back can we possibly deal with the Black Een ancestor. Song Yuran's lips were trembling, but she remained calm. The current situation was extremely unfavorable to the Righteous Alliance. The Alliance Lord was absent, as well as 80% of the Alliance's forces. They had gone in search of the Origin Immortal Palace and the demonic Emperor Old Man. The Black Een ancestor had chosen to attack at a moment when the Righteous Alliance was at its weakest, and the Black Een ancestor was a major figurehead of the evil path, so powerful that no one present was capable of stopping him. When it rained, it poured, and there would soon be something that made Song Yuran even more worried. Boom! The massive black Qilin suddenly plummeted from the sky and smashed into the summit in a cloud of dust. Martial uncle! Song Yuran paled, but this was still not the end. With a dreadful roar, the black dragon plunged down and slammed into the Righteous Alliance sword formations. Aya! Screams tore through the air as the sword formations began to collapse. Charge! With sharp cries, the Righteous Alliance experts got into sword formations and began to attack the Black Een ancestor on the summit. Song Yuran discovered that Wang Chong was behind her and anxiously called out, "Young Master Qingyang, get back!" Rumble. As explosions rang out in the air, shockwaves of energy swept out tensome meters. Song Yuran and the others were too weak to stand against these shockwaves, so they immediately fell back, Wang Chong going with them. The Black Een ancestor's strength was not to be underestimated, and Wang Chong felt as if his stellar energy was as sturdy as steel. One who was capable of refining their energy to this level had to be at a simply absurd level of power. In terms of opponents, the Black Een ancestor undoubtedly belonged to the most troublesome and vexatious sort. Kill! The Black Een sect experts roared as they worked together with the Black Een ancestor and the two Black Een sect protectors to press their advantage against the Righteous Alliance. Screams rang out as one Righteous Alliance disciple after another fell into pools of blood. The Black Een sect had come well prepared, and the Righteous Alliance was suffering massive losses. As the numerous Righteous Alliance disciples were caught off guard and cut down like weeds, their gurgling blood flowed down the slopes and dyed the entire world red. No matter what, we have to stop them. As one Righteous Alliance disciple fell after another, Song Yuran's pale face slowly became more determined. Song Ju, hurry and take young Master Qingyang away from here, Song Yuran suddenly said. The blustery winds caused her black hair to dance in the wind. But what about you, senior sister? Song Ju asked. Clang. The cry of a sword came in response. And then Song Yuran activated her movement technique and rushed toward where the battle was fiercest. Halfway up the mountain, the two Black Een sect protectors were continuing to kill their way through the Righteous Alliance, destroying one sword formation after another. They had already succeeded in breaking 30% of the Righteous Alliance's sword formations while also preventing the Righteous Alliance from committing its full attention to the main battle. The threat they posed was far greater than that of the Black Een sect experts at the base of the mountain. Senior sister, that's too dangerous. Song Ju had never expected Song Yuran to attack the two powerful and dangerous Black Een sect protectors. The difference in strength was far too vast. Song Yuran's attack was utterly suicidal. There's no time. Who knows when our martial uncles will return? If we don't stop them now, all the members of the Righteous Alliance will be killed. Song Yuran clenched her teeth and plunged into the battle, joining the other Righteous Alliance experts in attacking the two Black Een sect protectors. Swish! Wicked bolts of sword chi cut through the air. The same demon ghost art was many times stronger in the hands of the two Black Een sect protectors. Bang! A Righteous Alliance expert, unable to dodge in time, was struck by one of the sinister claws. His clothes were torn to shreds, his chest caved in, and his body was sent flying like a rag doll. Plush! Song Yuran had barely entered the battle when a bolt of energy flitted past her, tearing open a large and bloody wound on her left shoulder. Blood flowed, but Song Yuran only clenched her teeth, refusing to back down. Crane flight! Song Yuran raised her sword and immediately used the renowned crane flight of the martial arts world. This art was made specifically for women, and it required a sword to be used. Using it, the cultivator would become much faster and her body would become as light as a crane's. Moreover, the sword would begin to spin at high speeds, imbuing it with incredible damaging power that could easily tear through the stellar energy of a martial artist. Song Yuran was not strong enough to use this art as she pleased, but she could no longer care about such things. In the distance, a black insect protector had transformed into a demon more than 20 feet tall, his entire body cloaked in black energy as he fought and killed the Righteous Alliance experts who were attacking him from all angles. Ding! Song Yuran thrust her sword at the giant black insect protector. Boom boom boom. One wave of destructive and sinister energy after another rumbled toward the surrounding Righteous Alliance experts, including Song Yuran. The air shrieked as Song Yuran felt an intense sense of danger well up in her heart. Black General Impermanence. A hint of despair appeared in Song Yuran's mind. The black insect had two powerful experts, Black General Impermanence and White General Impermanence, together known as the twin evils of impermanence. The two of them had killed countless martial artists of the righteous path, and their cultivation levels were far too high. She was simply no match for them. Step on the Qian position. Song Yuran clenched her teeth and stepped forward. To the Li position. A moment later, Song Yuran lunged diagonally forward, dodging a lethal blow from Black General Impermanence by a hair. Dancing Willow Catkin. Song Yuran thrust her sword forward, almost instinctively using the move Wang Chong had instructed her to use against Wei Chongting. Swish! A beam of sword chi shot forward, followed by a ripping sound. Song Yuran's attack had not struck Black General Impermanence, but it had managed to make a tear in his robes. This attack had come so suddenly that even Black General Impermanence was startled. Repulsive girl, you're seeking death. With a stern shout, two sharp and furious eyes within the roiling black cloud suddenly locked onto Song Yuran. Song Yuran panicked, her composed demeanor finally collapsing. Foolish girl, are techniques supposed to be used this way? In the back, seeing Song Yuran completely copying his instructions from before, Wang Chong didn't know if he should laugh or cry. Not even he had expected that Song Yuran would use the technique he had taught her against the black insect protector, who was many times stronger than Wei Chongting. As Song Yuran was about to die to Black General Impermanence, Wang Chong suddenly called out, "Step on the Kuan position and go to the Zhun position." Bzzz. While Song Yuran's mind was still thinking, her body was already moving. Song Yuran suddenly stepped back, slightly off to the side. Boom! There was a heaven-shaking explosion as destructive black stellar energy hurtled through the air and landed only a few inches in front of Song Yuran. Kakrak! A rock that was half the size of an adult man was obliterated. All this happened so suddenly that, let alone Song Yuran, even Black General Impermanence was shocked and dumbfounded. How could a little girl like this be so powerful? Black General Impermanence was both shocked and infuriated, his eyes brimming with disbelief. Without the slightest hesitation, he had his dantian explode with stellar energy, sending a surge of evil energy shrieking into his right arm, which he thrust at Song Yuran. Wang Chong spoke again. Profound sun seals the heavens. Song Yuran raised her sword and somersaulted through the air, once more narrowly dodging the attack. Not only that, as Song Yuran's sword swept out, it almost cut off the arm of Black General Impermanence. He immediately paled and shot backward, at the same time punching forward, sending a powerful wave of energy at Song Yuran. Crane form. Wang Chong mentioned the name of a technique that he had not previously mentioned. The stellar energy in Song Yuran's body erupted, and a crane sharply cried out. The surrounding spiritual energy converged, transforming into a lifelike and enormous red-crowned crane, which descended and fused with Song Yuran. A moment later, with another sharp crane cry, Song Yuran's sword seemed to come alive, turning into a thick beam of sword chi that shot at Black General Impermanence. Cree! As the sword flew forward, the air resounded with the cries of cranes, and countless small cranes manifested in the air. Boom! Black General Impermanence had no time to think, only hastily fire off another punch. Roiling black energy collided with dazzling white light. When the light faded and the stellar energy calmed down, all the shocked Righteous Alliance disciples could see that the sword had pinned itself downward through Black General Impermanence's left shoulder. The tip of the sword emerged out of Black General Impermanence's back, as the sword was so deeply immersed that only the hilt had been left protruding on the other side. Although this attack had not killed Black General Impermanence, it had heavily wounded him. "This is impossible." The first to cry out was not the wide-eyed Black General Impermanence, but the doer of this deed, Song Yuran. The crane form was one of the strongest techniques of the crane flight art. The most unique trait of this technique was its ability to gather the spiritual energy from one's surroundings and fuse it with one's stellar energy to create a strike that was far above one's own level. But Song Yuran was well aware that this attack was only possible when the concentration of spiritual energy in the area had reached a certain level, and this requirement was extremely strict. She had practiced this art for a long time, but she had never once succeeded in using this technique. "Foul girl, I'll kill you." Black General Impermanence's eyes were wide in shock, but he quickly came back to his senses and lunged at Song Yuran. As a famed individual of the world of sex, and one of the two protectors of the Blackeen sect, he could never tolerate a loss to a girl who was weaker than him. "Stop him!" The Righteous Alliance experts were also stunned, but they also came back to their senses and lunged at Black General Impermanence. Swoosh! At this moment, Song Yuran chose to retreat back to Wang Chong's side. "Young Master Qingyang, how did you know the techniques of our crane flight art?" Song Yuran asked in disbelief to Wang Chong, who seemed so relaxed that it felt like he was just taking a stroll through this chaotic battlefield. The crane flight art was a top-class secret, but it seemed like Wang Chong understood the crane flight art more than she did. This was simply unbelievable. "Haha! Did you forget? I'm young Master Qingyang." Wang Chong faintly smiled as he voiced an unimpeachable excuse. Boom! At this moment, a massive explosion came from the summit, followed by a heaven-shaking roar. Countless experts of the Righteous Alliance were thrown from the summit like ragdolls. At this moment, an extremely old and panicked voice resounded in everyone's ears. "All disciples, hear my order. Retreat." It was the voice of Elder Ouyang. After fiercely battling with the Black Een ancestor for so long, Ouyang Chongheng was finally unable to go on. On the summit, the Black Qilin's luster had faded and it seemed in terrible shape. Song Yuran instantly paled, her breathing almost stopping. Ouyang Chongheng was the strongest expert left behind at the Righteous Alliance base and was one of the Alliance's top-class experts. Most importantly, the Black Een ancestor was extremely bloodthirsty and cruel. Once he settled on a goal, he would endlessly pursue it, even chasing it down for 1,000 li to succeed. If they retreated, the several hundred Righteous Alliance disciples currently at the base would immediately suffer gruesome losses. Elder Ouyang naturally understood this. It was obvious that this battle with the Black Een ancestor was going so poorly that he now felt compelled to retreat. As Song Yuran was still trying to digest this order, it was having a domino effect on the Righteous Alliance disciples and panic was rapidly spreading through the ranks. They were already barely managing against the Black Een sect experts, and now that they were panicking because of Elder Ouyang's order, they were suffering defeat after defeat. Kakik! The old ancestor is mighty and strong. That old man Ouyang is about to break. Everyone, redouble your efforts. Leave not one member of the Righteous Alliance alive. Charge! The Black Een sect experts at the foot of the mountain were greatly encouraged by this sight and struck while the iron was hot, charging at the Righteous Alliance disciples. "Eh!" Sharp screams rang out through the air as more and more Righteous Alliance experts were cut down like weeds. If one looked down from the summit, one would see a land covered in corpses. Swish! In the chaos of this battle, no one noticed someone making their way through the crowd. When this person was only 7 or 8 paces from Wang Chong, a bolt of black energy suddenly erupted toward Wang Chong. Everyone was completely caught by surprise, except for Wang Chong. "He, Wei Chongting." Wang Chong stood with his hands behind his back, a look of derision on his face. Although his strength had dropped, he could still easily deal with one Wei Chongting. Bzzz. Summoning his stellar energy, Wang Chong brought his middle and index finger up and prepared to fire. A clown's tricks. He truly had little regard for such petty tricks. But a moment later, Wang Chong was left dumbfounded. Careful! A figure suddenly shot in front of him. Plush! Song Yuran was pierced through the shoulder by Wei Chongting's sword chi and dropped to the ground, blood gushing from the wound. Song Yuran. In the crowd, Wei Chongting had also not expected his attack to be blocked by Song Yuran. Young lady! Kill! The surrounding Righteous Alliance experts saw what was going on and madly charged at Wei Chongting. Even though Wei Chongting was astoundingly talented and hailed as one of the rising stars of the evil path, he was still caught off guard and pushed back. This idiot girl. Wang Chong stared in a daze at Song Yuran, a complicated mixture of emotions in his eyes. With his strength, he had been completely capable of stopping Wei Chongting's attack, so he had never once harbored the notion that Song Yuran would be willing to block the attack for him. Wang Chong felt an indescribable feeling in his heart, some strange mixture of surprise and affection. He had originally intended to just play around in the Righteous Alliance for a while, but Wang Chong now sensed that he could no longer remain so aloof. Miss Song, there was really no need for you to save me. Wang Chong helped Song Yuran up and fed her a wound-healing pill. Cough. Young master, what are you saying? I was the one who got you caught up in this battle, so it's my duty to take care of you. Moreover, young master already saved my life once. How could I let you be injured? Song Yuran softly coughed, her aura somewhat weak. Young master, you should hurry and leave. If you don't go soon, you might never be able to leave. Song Yuran's voice was tinged with concern. All the martial arts world knew that young Master Qingyang was not a powerful martial artist. Given the way the Black Yin ancestor usually did things, if young Master Qingyang remained here, his fate was sealed. Wang Chong fell silent. Song Yuran clearly still regarded him as some young Master Qingyang. Just treat this as me returning a favor. Wang Chong took in a deep breath and turned to the chaotic battlefield, where the Righteous Alliance disciples were being constantly slain and pushed back. Miss Song, rest here for a while. I'll be back in a bit. Wang Chong scanned the area and then, putting down Song Yuran, he strode in the direction of Wei Chongting. Over there, some Righteous Alliance disciples had surrounded Wei Chongting, but with his mysterious demon ghost art, he had been able to hold fast. Not only that, Wei Chongting had even managed to kill 2 Righteous Alliance experts. Meeting me can be considered quite unfortunate. As Wang Chong made his way to Wei Chongting, his robes began to snap in the wind. He flipped over his palm, revealing a small pebble grasped between his middle and index fingers. With so many Righteous Alliance experts present, Wang Chong was not prepared to reveal his identity. But this wasn't even necessary to deal with Wei Chongting. Clap! In the space of 3 seconds, as Wei Chongting fought more and more fiercely, Wang Chong flicked his fingers. Pa! The pebble shot forward. The pebble was neither strong nor fast. An ordinary person who was slightly stronger than normal could probably achieve the same effect with a vigorous throw. But this ordinary pebble somehow managed to dodge the streams of stellar energy, and the tensome martial artists passed through Wei Chongting's stellar energy barrier through a small gap, and then, when Wei Chongting was about to use a technique, struck the Xinzhong point on his lower abdomen. The pebble did not have much force, but this was a crucial moment where Wei Chongting was switching out old stellar energy for new, and that point was precisely where this exchange was taking place. This single strike immediately threw Wei Chongting's stellar energy into disarray. Not good. Wei Chongting paled in shock. He had never imagined that he would be struck by a pebble, and that this minor act would cause him to lose control over all his stellar energy. Even more frightening was that even though he had tried to stop the pebble, he had inexplicably failed. Swish! As Wei Chongting's stellar energy fell into disarray and he was full of openings, a sword shot forward like a snake and stabbed into his body. Then there was another flash of cold light as a sword swung through the air. Ah! With a miserable scream and a splash of blood, Wei Chongting's left arm dropped to the ground. Repulsive girl. Kid. I won't let you go. After leaving behind these furious words, Wei Chongting transformed into a bloody streak of light and fled into the distance. Just who is this bastard? Wei Chongting was ghastly pale, his face drenched in cold sweat. Fleeing during a battle would result in heavy punishment, even for a favored disciple of the Black Yin ancestor. But Wei Chongting was worried that if he did not flee then, he would have died on that mountain. If you help someone, help them to the end, Wang Chong mused as he turned his gaze away from the fleeing Wei Chongting to Black General Impermanence and White General Impermanence. These two were using hit-and-run tactics, constantly changing up their positions and ruining the sword formations of the Righteous Alliance, posing far more of a threat than the Black Yin sect experts at the foot of the mountain. Clap! Wang Chong immediately stepped forward, making his way toward the other side of the battlefield. The speed and agility of Black General Impermanence and White General Impermanence were some of the best in the current era, and they were extremely proficient in their application of these traits. This undoubtedly made them extremely difficult to deal with. Moreover, their hit-and-run tactics made it very difficult for the sword formations of the Righteous Alliance to actually hit them. But Wang Chong quickly turned his eyes on these sword formations. These formations were exquisite creations, fusing the strength of 10 some people into one and maximizing their strengths. Wang Chong stood motionless in the blustery winds as his eyes scanned the sword formations. Gradually, Wang Chong began to notice a few things. Although these formations seemed complicated and the positions of the 10 some people were constantly changing without any apparent rhyme or reason, Wang Chong sensed that the sword formations used by the Righteous Alliance were actually strictly following a cycle of the 8 positions of Qian, Kuan, Ken Li Zhen, Sun, Zhen and Dui 1. Wang Chong was also beginning to get a grasp of the rules they followed when they attacked. Qian position. Attack the left side Shinshu point. Wang Chong calmly called out. But the battlefield at the middle of the mountain was in chaos, and no one paid attention to Wang Chong. Boom! A moment later, amidst roiling black energy and wailing ghosts, Black General Impermanence's demonic claw swept up black energy and smashed into the sword formation at the Qian position. Whoosh! 7 Righteous Alliance disciples immediately paled and vomited blood while the rest grimaced. Although the sword formation could maximize their power, the power of any attacks they received would also be distributed amongst all members of the formation. Kuan position. Attack the right side Gongyu point. Wang Chong called out once more. Bang! As if in response to his call, there was a furious explosion as the Kuan position was similarly attacked. 6 Righteous Alliance disciples were sent flying through the air, their chests caved in and their bones broken. The sword formation immediately collapsed. He's talking to us. Listen to him. Do what he says. At this point, someone finally realized what was going on. Wang Chong was instructing them on how to attack Black General Impermanence while also avoiding his frontal assaults. Who's there? Black General Impermanence also noticed Wang Chong standing nearby, and a hint of sharpness flickered through his eyes. Without the slightest hesitation, Black General Impermanence shot toward Wang Chong, attacking him with the technique known as Ghosts and Demons Prostrate. But Wang Chong had apparently predicted this move. Before Black General Impermanence even attacked, Wang Chong had already moved positions, causing that powerful bolt of energy to brush past him and hit nothing but air. Zhen position. The Shenchong point on the back. Unperturbed, Wang Chong called out again, acting as if nothing had happened. This time, as Black General Impermanence charged forward, the sword formation at the Zhen position behind him immediately mobilized and attacked the Shenchong point on his back. And at this time, Black General Impermanence's stellar energy happened to be passing through this point. Sensing the sharp sword chi behind him, Black General Impermanence grimaced and finally stopped and turned around to face this attack. Ken position. Chifu point. The Righteous Alliance experts at the Ken position immediately struck, sending boundless sword chi to work with the sword formation at the Zhen position and causing Black General Impermanence to stagger back, his aura in disarray and his face paling. The surrounding Righteous Alliance disciples were further encouraged by this sight and immediately put aside all their doubts. Although they didn't know how this azure-robed youth had managed to do it, it was clear that he knew the sword formations of the Righteous Alliance like the back of his hand and was also able to calculate all the movements of Black General Impermanence. Li position. Yuzhong point. Sun position. Mingmen point. Zhen position. Xuanguan point. Wang Chong's profound gaze could see through all of Black General Impermanence's movements. Whether Black General Impermanence rushed right or lunged left, he could not escape Wang Chong's tactics. In the back, Song Yuran and Song Ju looked at all this in complete shock. They knew that Wang Chong's gaze was sharp enough to see the flaws in an opponent's techniques, but they had never imagined that Wang Chong could even see through a major individual of the evil path like Black General Impermanence. Moreover, from Wang Chong's expression, he also appeared to thoroughly understand the sword formations of the Righteous Alliance. This left their minds reeling as their views of the world were overturned. Wonderful! Song Yuran clenched her fists in excitement. Meanwhile, the battle against Black General Impermanence had reached a critical juncture. Swish! A sword cut through Black General Impermanence's sword chi and left a deep wound on his body. A second sword soon followed, plunging into his belly, and then a third left a deep wound on his back, cutting so deep that the bone was exposed. Ah! Black General Impermanence finally began to panic. His strongest aspects were his strength and movement techniques. In the face of these massed attacks, he had lost the advantage in strength, so all he could rely on was his unpredictable movement techniques. But that mysterious azure-robed brat was clearly able to see through his movement techniques, predicting all his breakout attempts and sealing off his paths. Just who are you? Black General Impermanence panicked more and more, unable to believe that a youth of 17 or 18 was capable of seeing through his techniques and movements. Such people were few and far between in the world of sections. Zhun position. Shanzhong point, Wang Chong suddenly said. At a moment when Black General Impermanence was too tired to respond, a sword plunged toward his Shanzhong point. At any other time, Black General Impermanence would have been able to block it, but the rotation of attacks from the sword formations under Wang Chong's command had thrown Black General Impermanence's mind into disarray. Plush! A moment later, there was a miserable scream as the sword went straight through the Shanzhong point and out his back. Aya! Black General Impermanence screamed. The Shanzhong point was at the center of the chest, a vital point of the body. After taking this strike, Black General Impermanence felt his energy immediately scatter. An excellent chance. Upon seeing this, the surrounding disciples were invigorated, and swords came down on Black General Impermanence's body from all sides. Clang! A cold light swept across Black General Impermanence's neck, and then blood gushed as his head went spinning through the air. What a fast sword! I don't want to go. Black General Impermanence had one last sight of the spinning sky before his vision went dark and he knew nothing. Black General! The distant white General Impermanence's eyes went red. With Wang Chong commanding the Righteous Alliance sword formations to surround and attack Black General Impermanence, all the experts who had been chasing the two of them could now focus only on White General Impermanence, and he was tired out from dealing with their attacks. He had never expected that Black General Impermanence would be killed in only a few moments. Only White General Impermanence is left. Kill him! Seeing Black General Impermanence's fallen body, the Righteous Alliance disciples raised their swords and joined the fight against White General Impermanence. With so many people dealing with White General Impermanence, Wang Chong's intervention was no longer needed. Moreover, without the interference of these two, the Righteous Alliance was in much better shape to deal with the other enemies. Young Master Qingyang, you're truly too formidable. Song Ju rushed to Wang Chong's side and inspected him as if he was seeing Wang Chong for the first time. Coughing slightly, the pale-faced Song Yuran also went up to Wang Chong. Young Master Qingyang, thank you, Song Yuran said with heartfelt gratitude. It was nothing. Wang Chong smiled. Rumble. At this moment, a heaven-shaking boom accompanied by a chorus of screams resounded through the air. Several dozen top-class Righteous Alliance experts were thrown from the summit along with a shower of sand and gravel. What Righteous Alliance? All of you, die for me. The Black Een ancestors' brash and savage laughter echoed across the heavens. Boom! 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 The Black Een ancestor flailed his black dragon tail, casting aside another batch of Righteous Alliance experts. In a flash, everyone turned ghastly pale. Hurry and go! A shout that was both furious and shocked came from the summit. a top-class expert of the Righteous Alliance, anxiously yelled down the mountain before rushing back into the fray. These top-class experts were fighting to the death in their attempt to stop the Blackeen ancestor and bring an end to this tragedy. What do we do? What do we do? We just can't stop them. We're all finished. On the summit, a top-class expert of the Righteous Alliance raised his head toward the hellish black dragon above, his heart aflame. The current situation was one of extreme emergency. In just a few short moments, 5 or 6 of the Righteous Alliance's top-class experts had been killed by the Blackeen ancestor. Even Elder Ouyang had been injured, much less the others. This was the Blackeen ancestor, a man who pulled up problems by the roots and was willing to commit all manner of evils. In the time of the demonic emperor, it would have still been possible to hold him down, but now few people besides the Alliance Lord were capable of this feat. The Righteous Alliance expert subconsciously turned to Elder Ouyang Chongheng, and at this moment, he realized that Ouyang Chongheng's face was even paler and even uglier to look out. It seemed like he could fall at any moment. Ouyang Chongheng had already done his utmost by lasting until now. Young Master Qingyang, could I trouble you to help out the elders group? Wang Chong heard a voice at his ear and turned to see Song Yuran at his side, her eyes brimming with concern. Her voice tinged with the hope of a drowning person who had just spotted something to grab onto. The Blackeen ancestor is willing to commit all kinds of evils, and the 5 Ancestor Alliance gets along with our faction like fire and water. He won't let us escape. On this entire battlefield, the only person able to intervene in the battle on the summit was this young Master Qingyang. He was everyone's only hope. Whoosh! As the winds howled around him and the sounds of fighting filled his ears, Wang Chong stood with his hands held behind his back, his azure robes snapping in the air. As he gazed at that fierce battle between the Blackeen ancestor and Righteous Alliance experts, his eyes flashed. Wang Chong had no desire to meddle in the Righteous Alliance too much, and if he wanted to extract himself, now was the best time. Moreover, the Righteous Alliance had come for his master, and the Righteous Alliance Lord and the demonic Emperor Old Man apparently had some enmity between them. Having this faction lose some more people would be fine. However, Wang Chong turned his eyes onto the Blackeen ancestor's black dragon form. On the surface, the Blackeen ancestor's dragon was incredibly lifelike, almost indistinguishable from an actual black dragon. Wang Chong could even see its rustling scales and its dragon whiskers dancing in the wind. But this Blackeen ancestor isn't some good thing either. Wang Chong reminded himself. It hadn't just been the sect martial artists of the so-called righteous path that had entrapped his master, but also many influential and powerful martial artists of the evil path, and this Blackeen ancestor happened to be one of them. He had played a significant role in the conspiracy against his master. Okay. As this thought passed through his mind, Wang Chong quickly agreed. With a sweep of his sleeve, he began to head toward the dust-shrouded summit, where the fiercest and most dangerous fighting was taking place. Behind him, Song Yuran suppressed her injuries and followed together with Song Ju. Wang Chong had stopped some 100 paces from the summit and was quietly observing the battle. The name of young Master Qingyang resonated throughout the world, but not even Song Yuran was sure if he could assist the elders group. As Wang Chong watched the Black Dragon push back the Righteous Alliance experts again and again, many thoughts flitted through his mind. This fellow might even be comparable to me. The Blackeen ancestor was different from Black General Impermanence. His martial arts had truly reached a profound and formidable level. Finding the flaws in experts of this level was excruciatingly difficult. Moreover, the Blackeen ancestor had taken the form of a black dragon, and this form further minimized his weaknesses. Wang Chong would find it very hard to threaten the Blackeen ancestor unless he revealed his true identity and entered the fray. But Wang Chong had another method which he could use against the Blackeen ancestor, the world of energy. Buzz! Wang Chong's eyes flashed, and then the scene before his eye changed to the perspective of another world. All objects in the world vanished, leaving behind endless energies surging across the world. The Blackeen ancestor also ceased to exist in Wang Chong's eyes. Amidst the vast and surging tides of energy was now a massive black mass that spanned the heavens. This energy mass was violent and wicked. It was like a black hole, absorbing all the surrounding energy. This was what the Black Yin ancestor seemed in Wang Chong's eyes, an endless black hole that devoured all. There were numerous powerful tides of energy around him that were constantly colliding with the Black Yin ancestor's energy mass. But in these clashes, they were the ones who flickered like candles in the wind. If this continued, the Righteous Alliance members would face complete defeat soon. It's still not enough, Wang Chong said to himself. He blinked, causing the world before his eyes to become even clearer. This was a development that had taken place after Wang Chong's return from the Battle of Talas. The demonic Emperor Old Man and the Wuxiang village chief had reaped a significant harvest from witnessing Kateba break into the subtle realm, and Wang Chong had also gained much. The greatest harvest was his greater sensitivity and perception toward the various kinds of energy. As everything became much clearer and more detailed in Wang Chong's eyes, so did that black mass of energy on the summit. The black mass of energy had condensed into the shape of a dragon, and Wang Chong could make out thousands of streams of energy cycling and flowing within it. The complexity of the Black Yin ancestor's dragon form made even Wang Chong sigh in praise. The head, whiskers, tail, and scales were all composed of stellar energy, and only a supreme master of controlling stellar energy was capable of such a feat. In this aspect, one could see that the Black Yin ancestor's cultivation had far surpassed the vast majority of martial artists. Even so, Wang Chong remained calm and unperturbed. Every martial artist has a weakness. This Black Yin ancestor is no exception, Wang Chong said to himself. His sharp gaze quickly focused on the energy flows on the Black Yin ancestor's exterior. The Black Yin ancestor's energy was like a storm, violent yet orderly. Even in the world of energy, Wang Chong could not see any obvious flaw. Wang Chong was well aware that this hegemon of the martial arts world was inconceivably skilled and powerful. There was no simple way to deal with him. Young Master Qingyang, how is it? The worried voice of Song Yuran came from next to him. Wang Chong said nothing and continued to stare at the summit. The battle was still ongoing, and as the Black Yin ancestor's brash laughter echoed through the world, more and more Righteous Alliance disciples were falling. The Black Yin ancestor alone was enough to suppress the vast majority of the Righteous Alliance's forces. As fierce gusts swept down from the mountain, Wang Chong's eyes remained fixed on the Black Yin ancestor. Every shift in stellar energy reflected in Wang Chong's mind. Found it! After some time, Wang Chong's eyes flashed as he locked onto a certain point on the Black Yin ancestor's body. This was a black dot the size of a fingernail, well concealed by the Black Yin ancestor's evil energy. Wang Chong had needed a great deal of time to notice it. The fingernail-sized black dot had originally been concealed deep within the Black Yin ancestor's body, but as the battle continued and stellar energy flowed, the dot had slowly made its way to the surface. Ordinary martial artists would have never been able to sense such a minor shift, but in Wang Chong's eyes, this dot blazed as brightly as a torch. This is a hidden infirmity that comes with old age. The Black Yin ancestor became famous many years ago, and it seems like he suffered significant wounds in his youth. Those injuries have built up in his body, and though the vast majority of them were resolved with his immense cultivation, there are simply too many of these injuries. Not even someone of the Black Yin ancestor's cultivation level can resolve all of them. These hidden injuries rarely showed themselves and would have little effect. But when one encountered some powerful foe or participated in a fierce battle that caused one to push their stellar energy to the limit, these injuries would immediately show themselves and begin to affect the flow of stellar energy. However, the Black Yin ancestor's cultivation level was so high that even noticing this sort of weakness would be useless for an ordinary martial artist. But the same could not be said for Wang Chong. Song Yuran, listen to me. Bring over 16 sword formations, Wang Chong said as he stared at the summit. Song Ju, pass on the order. Have those sword formations come over. Song Yuran immediately said. Once the summit fell, the only thing awaiting everyone else was death and defeat. The nature of the Black Yin ancestor meant that probably 90% of the disciples here would be massacred. The fighting at the foot of the mountain was intense, but the 16 sword formations Wang Chong wanted were still quickly sent over. The mood was fraught with tension as everyone awaited Wang Chong's order. Everyone, heed my orders. The battle on the summit is of utmost importance, but we can only offer supporting attacks. Without my order, no one is to directly attack the Black Een ancestor, Wang Chong sternly said. Roar! Another bestial shout came from the summit as one of the Black Een ancestor's massive claws slammed down. The mountain shook and dust and gravel flew into the air. Begin! Wang Chong's eyes gleamed as he gave the order. The 16 sword formations began to follow the orders Wang Chong had previously given. Spacing themselves at 10 paces from each other, they charged up the mountain in the shape of a Z. Bang! One sword formation was slow to react and was struck by one of the bolts of energy from the Black Een ancestor, causing it to break apart. But the majority of the Righteous Alliance disciples succeeded in reaching the summit. Kill! With heaven-shaking shouts, the sword formations approached the Black Een ancestor. A clown's tricks! The Black Een ancestor barely even glanced at these Righteous Alliance disciples, his eyes brimming with disdain. The light of fireflies dared to vie against the radiance of the moon? Without a second thought, the Black Een ancestor sent an explosion of energy at them. Cries of alarm came from the people on the summit, and some disciples began to retreat. Only Wang Chong remained unperturbed. Can position the dragon body 10 inches? Wang Chong suddenly said. Bang! There was a thunderous boom as at least 3 of the sword formations struck the dragon's body. The Black Een ancestor had been completely focused on battling Ouyang Chongheng, but at this moment he paled. Li position, dragon body, for inches. For sword formations quickly fired off milky white bolts of sword chi toward another place on the black dragon's body. Zhun position, dragon body, 9 inches. Duan position, dragon body, 2 inches. Qian position, dragon body, 6 inches. As the wind gusted around him, Wang Chong remained focused on that fingernail-sized black on the black dragon's body. Wherever the black dot moved, Wang Chong would have the 16 sword formations attack it. The Black Een ancestor originally paid this little mind, but gradually his complexion soured. These Righteous Alliance disciples that were nothing more than fleas to him were constantly attacking the places where his stellar energy was weakest. In normal circumstances, the Black Een ancestor would have hardly cared, but the constant attacks on his weakest spots were constantly draining away his stellar energy. More importantly, these attacks were beginning to affect the flow of energy in his body, and the effects were only getting more obvious as time went on. How could this be? As he sensed those constant attacks of the Righteous Alliance disciples constantly wearing away at his stellar energy, the Black Een ancestor clenched his teeth, a look of disbelief on his face. This was not his first clash with the Righteous Alliance. In the past, even when there were even more disciples than now, they had never been able to pose a threat to him. But this time, these Righteous Alliance disciples seemed to have undergone a complete transformation. There were fewer of them and fewer of their sword formations, but their effectiveness far surpassed that of any other battle. Foul brat! The Black Een ancestor's dragon eyes scanned the battlefield and quickly locked onto Wang Chong. You're seeking death. Bzzz. Immense psychic energy, almost tangible, surged through the air and locked onto Wang Chong. An excellent chance. It was impossible for Ouyang Chongheng to not sense what was happening to the Black Een ancestor. He had already prepared himself for defeat, but now, the 16 sword formations had drawn away at least 40% of the Black Een ancestor's attention and focus, and their attacks had also affected the Black Een ancestor's stellar energy, causing it to flow unevenly. In a battle at this level, these things were fatal. Everyone listen up. Surround the Black Een ancestor. He can't be allowed to leave. Ouyang Chongheng roared, once more summoning his energy and taking the form of the large black qilin, its energy righteous and vast. Boom! The qilin soared into the air, lunging at the Black Een ancestor. Black qilin heaven's descent. The air rippled like waves as a surging mass of energy transformed into a massive qilin claw that slammed at the Black Een ancestor. Boom! Boom! The summit was once more engulfed in dust, the air ringing with the clashes of stellar energy and the cries of battle. The battle became even more intense than it had been before. The gusts of wind stirred up by the battle blew down the slopes, causing Wang Chong's black hair to dance in the wind. Song Yuran, tell me all the techniques the sword formations of your righteous alliance can use. Hurry! Wang Chong continued to stare at the summit as he spoke. Song Yuran nodded and immediately began to list the techniques the sword formations could use. Sword charges at Bull and Dipper, Peerless Sword Chi, Blazing Sun's Zenith, Bright Moon rises from the east, Dazzling Sun and Moon. Song Yuran had no idea why Wang Chong was asking about this, as unless one cultivated these techniques, one would find it very hard to understand the crucial points of these techniques. However, as the situation was urgent, Song Yuran instinctively followed Wang Chong's orders. The Black Yin ancestor will soon begin his counterattack. Song Yuran, Song Ju, have everyone get back 200 feet and keep their distance from the battlefield. Wang Chong's voice was one that brooked no objection. Song Yuran's heart trembled. For some reason, the young master Qingyang at this moment exuded an aura of supreme majesty that made it impossible to refuse his orders. Song Yuran and Song Ju both fell back, leaving a large empty space around Wang Chong. Meanwhile, on the summit, with the entry of those righteous alliance disciples under Wang Chong's command, the situation was slowly changing. At the start, the Black Yin ancestor had been unbridled and unstoppable. But now he was slowly losing his edge, and besides that, the Black Yin ancestor was beginning to struggle. He not only needed to deal with Ouyang Changheng from the front, but also the 16 sword formations. Even the other Saint Martial experts were beginning to catch a few clues and were following the sword formations in attacking the weakest parts of the Black Yin ancestor's stellar energy. This caused the Black Yin ancestor's situation to get worse and worse. Let alone killing Ouyang Changheng, he was now being suppressed by the Righteous Alliance. How could this be? When did another individual of this level appear in the world of sex? The Black Yin ancestor's mind was in turmoil, and his face looked like he had seen a ghost. As one of the luminaries of the evil path, the Black Yin ancestor knew the established figures and rising stars of the world of sex like the back of his hand, but he had never before seen that youth on the mountain. Moreover, the Black Yin ancestor was slowly beginning to realize that this boy had somehow managed to see through his flow of stellar energy and notice its flaw. One had to realize that this weak spot was constantly changing, moving with the flow of his stellar energy. But Wang Chong was somehow able to predict where this spot would appear, and even account for the speed with which those Righteous Alliance disciples could attack, allowing them to hit his weak point every time. This was what truly alarmed him the most. Daring to make an enemy of this ancestor is seeking death. This ancestor will kill you first, and then kill that old scoundrel Ouyang Changheng and the Righteous Alliance disciples. The Black Yin ancestor instantly felt an intense desire to kill that azure-robed youth down below. Rumble! The mountain began to quake as the black dragon began to seethe with black stellar energy which surged down the mountain in waves. This black energy began to take up the fallen swords of the Righteous Alliance and send them plunging down at Wang Chong in a rain of swords. Swish! A sword shrieked as it transformed into a black bolt of sword chi that shot toward Wang Chong with stunning speed. But Wang Chong remained calm and emotionless. As if he had already predicted this, he had taken half a step to the side, causing the sword to brush past his left cheek. Boom! The sword landed 7 or 8 paces behind Wang Chong in an explosion, the sword plunging up to its hilt into the ground and unleashing a shower of stone. Swish! 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 Tensome swords swiftly followed, but Wang Chong continued to look up at the sky as he confidently stepped here and there, easily avoiding this first wave of swords. Protect the young master. The Righteous Alliance experts immediately responded, flying over to fend off the subsequent rain of swords. Even the experts on the summit took note of the handsome youth down below and intervened to protect him. Wang Chong mentally nodded. Although he was strong enough to deal with these attacks with the assistance of the Righteous Alliance experts, he would not need to expose himself too much. Gen position, dragon body, 6 inches. Sun position, dragon body, 8 inches. Li position, dragon body, 1 inch. The Black Yin ancestors' attacks were sharp and penetrating, But Wang Chong's counterattack came with incredible swiftness. In choosing to attack Wang Chong in the middle of a fierce battle, the Black Yin ancestor had inevitably revealed even more weaknesses which Wang Chong now commanded the Righteous Alliance disciples to attack. The Black Dragon was both shocked and infuriated as it was pushed back under this wave of attacks. Impossible! How could this brat dodge the attacks of this ancestor? He was an authority of the evil path, and even a righteous path expert like Ouyang Chongheng found it difficult to dodge his attacks. At the very least, Ouyang Chongheng could not have dodged his attacks with a few confident and leisurely steps as that youth had done. For someone like the Black Yin ancestor to be so off the mark when trying to kill a single person was simply inconceivable. The only explanation was that this youth was pretending to be a pig so that he could eat a tiger, and had already predicted all the attacks he would make. Just the thought of this kind of individual greatly alarmed the Black Yin ancestor. No background, no name, no origin, yet they possessed such insight and experience. The Black Yin ancestor found this youth to be increasingly enigmatic. An excellent chance. Wang Chong was ever perceptive of the battlefield situation. At this moment, the Black Yin ancestor's mind was in disarray from his repeated setbacks. This was the perfect chance for an all-out assault. Can position, dazzling sun and moon. Li position, blazing sun's zenith. Zhen position, sword charges at bull and dipper. Sun position, peerless sword chi. Qian position, bright moon rises from the east. Availing himself of the Black Yin ancestor's lack of focus, Wang Chong called 6 orders in a row. This time, however, at 6 positions around the Black Dragon, the 16 sword formations of the Righteous Alliance simultaneously attacked with a heaven-shaking momentum. The salvo of attacks came so suddenly that even the Black Yin ancestor was caught off guard. But the true blow came from Ouyang Chongheng. Darkness Qilin. The howl of a Qilin resounded through the air, and Ouyang Chongheng's beard suddenly began to dance while his eyes exploded with dazzling light. An enormous black Qilin pushed through a gap in the Black Yin ancestor's defenses and slammed like a comet of destruction into the chest of the Black Dragon, striking with thunderous momentum. "Aya!" The Black Yin ancestor cried out as he was thrown out of the dragon's body by this dreadful strike. This was the first time the Black Yin ancestor had suffered such a blow in his battle with Ouyang Chongheng. Bastard! The Black Yin ancestor vomited blood, his entire body trembling in shock and fury. Ouyang Chongheng's attack had made him angry, but the arch-criminal behind all this was that azure-robed youth down below. If not for him, Ouyang Chongheng would have never been able to injure him. "You useless pieces of trash! Kill him already!" The Black Yin ancestor's roars echoed across the Righteous Alliance's base. But no one could have imagined that the target of his rage was not Ouyang Chongheng, but someone who had not even fought in the battle, Wang Chong. And as the Black Yin ancestor roared, the experts fighting with the Righteous Alliance began to notice that youth midway up the mountain. At that moment, Wang Chong became the undisputed center of the battlefield, countless people focusing their attention on him. Wang Chong was at first taken aback by this strange mood, but he quickly smiled. Although everyone had now taken notice of him, this was perfect for Wang Chong if he wanted an identity that would let him infiltrate the world of sections. At the very least, he had made a reputation through this battle. "Kill! Kill that kid!" Countless Black Yin sect disciples bellowed as they began to charge toward Wang Chong's position. If King Yama said that one needed to die by the 3rd watch, no one would dare to tarry until the 5th watch. For the disciples of the Black Yin sect, as long as the Black Yin ancestor wanted someone dead, they would pay any price to kill that person. The mountain resounded with cries of battle as the Black Yin sect disciples surged toward Wang Chong. At this moment, Song Yuren's voice resounded in everyone's ears. "All Righteous Alliance disciples, hear my order. Protect young Master Qingyang." The Righteous Alliance disciples responded, taking up their swords to hinder the Black Yin sect disciples, while also forming a protective circle around Wang Chong. "Protect young Master Qingyang. Protect young Master Qingyang. Protect young Master Qingyang." More cries could be heard as other Righteous Alliance disciples noticed what was going on and rushed toward Wang Chong. Clang clang clang. The clashing of weapons and stellar energy rang out as the battle intensified like never before. For the first time, the Righteous Alliance and Black Een sect, two major factions of the world of sex, were fighting over a young man that belonged to neither faction. At some point, Wang Chong had become the point of contention for the entire battlefield, the crux which would decide the final outcome. Not even Song Yuran, who had brought Wang Chong to the base in the first place, had ever expected this outcome. Ha! Wang Chong mentally smiled at this sight. In his weakened state, everyone had now taken him to be the innately weak and powerless young master Qingyong. It seemed like not even the Black Een ancestor suspected his identity. The world had conspired to create a disguise for him. Ken position, Li position. Blazing sun's zenith. Qian position, Sun position. Bright moon rises from the east. Wang Chong was unperturbed, and continued to gaze at the summit and command the Righteous Alliance experts in their battle against the Black Een ancestor. Many ants could gnaw an elephant to death, and though the Black Een ancestor was powerful, in the face of the many attacks from the sword formations and Ouyang Chongheng, he immediately found himself hard-pressed. Under the command of Wang Chong, these ordinary experts of the Righteous Alliance that the Black Een ancestor would normally be hardly bothered about were like iron bars, trapping him within an invisible cage that was slowly contracting around him. The Black Een ancestor was astonished and enraged. This was an exceedingly rare opportunity, with the majority of the Righteous Alliance's forces away to search for the Origin Immortal Mountain and the demonic Emperor Old Man, one that he had used to strike at the Righteous Alliance's rear so that he could exterminate its base in one fell swoop. Never had he imagined that even though he had succeeded in ambushing that old man Ouyang Chongheng, he would eventually fail due to the efforts of some mysterious boy. All his plans had been completely overturned. The Black Een ancestor had dominated the world of sex for more than half his life, and no one had ever dared to oppose him like this. Reckless thing, I'll put the Righteous Alliance to the side for now. Even if this ancestor can't kill Ouyang Chongheng today, I'll kill you first to serve as a warning to others. The Black Een ancestor's fury brought forth courage, and his desire to kill Wang Chong instantly exceeded his desire to kill Ouyang Chongheng. Boom! Evil and sinister energy, so thick that it seemed like black liquid, erupted from the Black Een ancestor's dantian. Just when the Black Een ancestor was prepared to use a secret art that did almost as much damage to him as it did to his foe. Luo Qin, when this one isn't here, is this all you're capable of? Only focusing on attacking juniors. At this moment, the air rumbled with a voice suffused with boundless dignity. As this voice spoke, a golden light burst out of the clouds and illuminated the heavens, dyeing the sky in the hue of sunset. And deep within the clouds was a destructive energy that burned the heavens as it rapidly approached the summit. Not good. Song Yuani. That blazing golden light and the black silhouette within it that was rapidly approaching caused the Black Een ancestor, who had been rampaging unbridled through the Righteous Alliance disciples, to become like a mouse seeing a cat. His face paled and deep dread appeared in his eyes. Retreat! Everyone, retreat! Song Yuani has returned. Everyone, leave now! The Black Een ancestor called out anxiously, taking on the blows from Ouyang Chongheng and several Righteous Alliance disciples. The writhing dragon erupted with stellar energy and soared into the sky in an explosion of dust. But even though the Black Een ancestor had reacted quickly, that figure that was descending from the heavens reacted even more quickly. The Black Een ancestor had barely fled several thousand feet when that figure caught up and collided with him. Boom! A heaven-shaking explosion appeared in the sky, stirring up fierce gales. Kakrak! 8 of the Righteous Alliance's banners on the mountain snapped, while numerous Righteous Alliance disciples cried out in alarm as they were caught up in the gale and sent bowling over. Song Yuani. Just you wait. This is only the beginning. The Black Een ancestor's furious voice resounded through the air, but the man himself had already shot off into the distance as a black streak. The other figure did not continue to pursue, instead gently drifting down to the summit like a spiraling feather. Thump! But when that person landed, he seemed to weigh 10,000 June, the entire mountain trembling under his weight. It's the Righteous Alliance Lord. Run! The Black Een sect disciples paled in fear at the sight of the figure on the summit. all of them immediately turned around and scattered like frightened beasts. Kill! Meanwhile, the Righteous Alliance disciples were invigorated and chased after the fleeing Black Insect disciples. At almost the same moment, ringing war cries came from the west as hundreds of Righteous Alliance disciples charged forward. Every one of these Righteous Alliance experts was incredibly powerful, and at a rough glance there were 6 or 7 who were on par with Ouyang Chongheng. The situation was instantly reversed, and the Black Insect was soon routed completely. While everyone else was chasing after the Black Insect, Wang Chong remained standing at his position midway up the mountain. His gaze quickly turned to that white-robed figure who had descended from the heavens. This person is the Righteous Alliance Lord? Wang Chong silently inspected this person. This man seemed around 40 or 50, and he was wearing the snow-white robe emblematic of the Righteous Alliance, but he exuded an indescribable dignity. His face was stern and inflexible, and he seemed like one of those grim and taciturn types. His eyes exuded a sharp light that infused him with a sharp and fierce aura. What left the deepest impression was the boundless energy raging within him, seemingly capable of sundering apart the world. Anyone who experienced this vast sea of dreadful energy would instinctively feel awe and respect. What a powerful expert! With only a glance, Wang Chong immediately felt his heart chill. At the same time, he buried his cultivation even deeper within him. Although this was his first time seeing him, Wang Chong sensed that this Righteous Alliance Lord was extremely dangerous, even more dangerous than the Black Yin ancestor. And Wang Chong sensed that if his great Yin-Yang heaven creation art were discovered, he would immediately be thrown into a fierce battle. A clown's tricks. At this moment, Righteous Alliance Lord Song Yuanyi stood on the summit, his robes snapping in the wind, his body suffused with a divine energy. At this time, he had not even noticed Wang Chong. His sharp and cold eyes were fixed on the fleeing Black Insect experts. Swish! Song Yuanyi flicked his right hand several times, instantly firing off tensome dense bolts of energy in various directions. When these bolts of energy had traveled some 300 feet, they divided into 2, then into 3, and struck the fleeing Black Insect experts. Rumble! Explosions and screams rang through the air as the bolts of energy made large holes in the bodies of the fleeing Black Insect disciples, who trembled before dropping to the ground, some of them rolling along for as much as 100 feet. The world suddenly fell silent. With just a single move, the Righteous Alliance Lord had killed at least 50 Black Insect experts. Alliance Lord! Alliance Lord! Alliance Lord! Countless Righteous Alliance disciples shook themselves from their stupor and began to loudly cheer. As they gazed at that white-robed figure on the summit, their eyes exuded extreme passion and adoration. It was as if the man on the summit was no human, but a god. Wang Chong's expression immediately turned extremely grave. He sensed that this person was undoubtedly a major foe of his master, the demonic Emperor Old Man Father. At this moment, a graceful figure brushed past Wang Chong toward the man on the mountain, rushing into the embrace of the Righteous Alliance Lord. Wang Chong was somewhat startled by this scene, his mind in turmoil. When Song Yuan had begun to command the Righteous Alliance disciples, Wang Chong had already been able to tell that she held an unusual status. But not even Wang Chong had imagined that Song Yuan would be the daughter of Song Yuanyi, the Righteous Alliance Lord. The demonic Emperor Old Man was mortal foes with the Righteous Alliance Lord, and in the conspiracy back then, Song Yuanyi had played a part. Wang Chong had never imagined that he would have saved Song Yuanyi's daughter, and for a moment, a complicated expression appeared in his eyes. It's about enough. I should quit while I'm ahead. This Righteous Alliance Lord is no mediocre individual, and as one of the schemers against my master, he's definitely an extremely shrewd man. I still haven't recovered from my injuries, so if I remain here, there's an 8 or 9 out of 10 chance that I'll be exposed. With this thought, Wang Chong swiftly weighed the pros and cons and decided to use this chance to leave. Haha! Young Master Qingyang, just where do you plan on going? Wang Chong had barely retreated a few steps when a sinister voice rang out in his ear. A figure exuding an icy aura suddenly rushed forward and blocked his path. Ji Andu! Wang Chong narrowed his eyes, instantly recognizing the man. During the fierce battle on the summit with the Black Yin ancestor, Wang Chong had seen no sign of Ji Andu, but now he had appeared out of nowhere to block Wang Chong's path. Young Master Qingyang, you played a major role in dealing with the Black Yin ancestor. With the Alliance Lord here now, how can you just leave? Ji Andu had a beaming smile and seemed to have good intentions, but his eyes were ice-cold and emotionless. After speaking, he immediately looked around him and at Song Yuran at the summit. Everyone, this one is the illustrious young Master Qingyang of the world of sex. Junior sister, young Master Qingyang seems ready to leave. Are you not going to stop him? With his last words, he looked at Song Yuran and spoke at a higher volume. Buzz. Wang Chong's heart chilled as he glanced at Ji Andu, but he soon composed himself. No matter what sort of scheme Ji Andu had in mind, he would fail. Right, father, that person is the illustrious young Master Qingyang. He and his guard got separated, and your daughter happened to run into him and brought him back. Without his help, we would have been broken long ago. Ji Andu's reminder caused Song Yuran to remember this matter. Now that her father was here and the situation was settled, she could now relax and introduce this young Master Qingyang. Young Master Qingyang was renowned for knowing all kinds of martial arts, and innumerable factions had tried to recruit him. She couldn't deny that she had also been somewhat thinking of this when she brought Wang Chong back to the mountain. Oh! Song Yuan turned, his eyes as sharp as blades as they fell upon Wang Chong. At that moment, Wang Chong felt like every inch of his body was being thoroughly inspected. Alliance Lord Song, my respects. Since he had already made up his mind, Wang Chong calmed down and proceeded toward the summit. He stopped several steps away from Song Yuan, his expression neither meek nor proud. At that moment, Wang Chong became the center of attention, countless eyes upon him. Sir, is young Master Qingyang? A voice came from the side, and then several powerful Righteous Alliance elders walked out of the crowd, appreciatively inspecting Wang Chong. Young Master Qingyang's reputation in the world of sex could not compare to martial luminaries like Righteous Alliance Lord Song Yuan or Elder Ouyang Chongheng, but he was the #1 individual of the younger generation. Thus, young Master Qingyang was still closely watched by countless people. Most importantly, young Master Qingyang was far too mysterious. No one had ever seen him before. Young Master, my utmost gratitude for your assistance. This song represents the entire Righteous Alliance in thanking young Master. Righteous Alliance Lord Song Yuan finally spoke, his voice flat and emotionless. Right, the Northwest is remote and very sparsely inhabited. For what reason has young Master Qingyang come here? In addition, young Master's guard has always been inseparable from young Master. How did young Master become separated from him? Our Righteous Alliance has many disciples and is well informed. Perhaps we can ask around for you. Song Yuan glanced at Wang Chong, a profound light in his eyes. This one happened to hear several martial artists discussing how many people from the sex had appeared in the Northwest, even the Alliance Lord. This one became curious and came to take a look. But there was a mishap on the way, and my guard and I were ambushed, and the two of us ended up separated. I have still not heard any news of him. I presume that Ji Wu is recovering from his wounds at some place. Once he has recovered, he will naturally come to find me. Ji Wu is a powerful martial artist with deep reserves, so he should not have any problems. Thank you, Alliance Lord, for your concern. Wang Chong smiled, speaking leisurely. He then bowed, his expression and demeanor earning the admiration of the crowd. Song Yuan immediately sensed something and immediately spoke up in hopes of helping Wang Chong. Father, young Master Qingyang truly possesses astonishing talent. Although he's lacking in strength, just a few words of instruction were enough for him to command our Righteous Alliance disciples into working together to kill the Black Yin Sect's Black General Impermanence. In addition, with his prompt assistance, your daughter was able to escape the hands of Wei Chongting. Oh! Song Yuan's last words caused a ripple in Song Yuan's eyes, and his expression became much gentler. A daughter knew her father the best, and young Master Qingyang had so greatly aided the Righteous Alliance that Song Yuan had no desire to have him be in an awkward situation. Song Yuan turned and said, Since that is the case, this song is even more grateful to young master. Since young master is here, why not spend a few days with our righteous alliance? Elder Ouyang, take one of the infinity tokens of our righteous alliance and give it to young master Qingyang. Young master Qingyang, with this token, whether you are in the northwest or anywhere else, you can mobilize the experts of our righteous alliance. In this way, you will be more able to protect yourself. The eyes of all the righteous alliance disciples, including Ouyang Changheng, brightened. Young Master Qingyang's unique insight and profound understanding of martial arts had caused many factions to fight over him. But because his meridians were damaged, gold, silver, jewels, or even secret martial arts manuals were of little interest to him. By gifting him an infinity token, the Alliance Lord could mitigate young Master Qingyang's flaw, return a favor to him, and also invisibly pull him closer to the sect, adding another outstanding retainer to the ranks of the Alliance. This was truly a most exquisite move. Since that is the case, this one will take the offer. Wang Chong smiled and clasped his hands as he took the token, which signified an individual of extremely high status in the Righteous Alliance. The token was heavy in his hand, and as Wang Chong glanced down to look at it, he saw that the image of a crane and cloud was on one side while the word infinity was written on the other, wrought in silver and exuding power. Now that the matter was settled and Wang Chong had taken the token of the Righteous Alliance, Ouyang Changheng stepped forward and waved his hand. Don't just stand around. Hurry and clean up the mountain. A few moments later, the crowd had dispersed. The mountain was in tatters, its slopes covered with snapped banners, fallen corpses, pools of blood, and mottled swords. All these things needed time to clean up. Although the Righteous Alliance had suffered no small loss, judging by the bodies on the mountain, the Black Insect had also come away with severe losses. This was particularly because Song Yuanyi had appeared at the last moment and killed many Black Insect experts. Right, Father? Did you get anything on this excursion? Did you find the demonic emperor or the origin immortal mountain? Song Yuan suddenly asked. Her question instantly attracted the attention of others, and all of them looked over curiously. Wang Chong's heart thumped as he looked over as well. His master and Song Yuanyi were mortal foes, and his master had been gone for so long at the same time that Song Yuanyi had gone out. This inevitably made Wang Chong feel a little worried. His greatest concern at the moment was his master's current location. Song Yuanyi fell silent, a look of recollection in his eyes. There's been no progress on the origin immortal mountain, and whether it's really here is still a matter for debate. This immortal mountain appeared far too easily. I'm afraid the matter might not be as simple as we think it is, Song Yuanyi lightly said. What about the demonic Emperor Zhang Wenfu then? Has there been any news of him? Righteous Alliance Elder Ouyang Changheng suddenly spoke, his eyes gleaming with anticipation. Demonic Emperor Zhang Wenfu was infamous for his many evil acts. He had raised countless bloody storms in the world of sex, and a large part of the reason the Righteous Alliance had come was for him. Before Song Yuanyi could speak, a muscular man around 2 meters high stepped forward. We ran into him, but he managed to escape. He even managed to injure a few of our men. There was a bloody wound on his face that stretched from his cheekbone to his temple, and one could even spot a hint of bone. It appeared that he had been injured not too long ago. Sikong Yuanjia. This was another elder of the Righteous Alliance, and in terms of status, he was above Ouyang Changheng. Sikong Yuanjia's face was pale and his breathing ragged. These details along with the wound on his face indicated that he had suffered a significant loss in that battle he spoke of. Buzz! Sikong Yuanjia's words immediately caused an uproar on the peak of the mountain, with many people whispering to each other in shock. On the side, Wang Chong mentally breathed a sigh of relief. His master had been gone for far too long, and Wang Chong had started to get worried. But Sikong Yuanjia's words set him at ease. His master was already on the verge of becoming a subtle realm expert, and though the Righteous Alliance might have many powerful experts, it was not so easy to deal with his master. It's fine as long as he's okay, Wang Chong said to himself. He had been anxious to join up with his master, but this was no longer so urgent. How could that be? With the Alliance Lord present and so many experts from our Righteous Alliance, How could Zhang Wenfu possibly escape? Ouyang Chongheng called out in alarm as he turned to Song Yuanyi and Xikong Yuanjia in shock. And hasn't Zhang Wenfu already gone through a cultivation defect? How could he still be this powerful? We also don't know what's going on. This scoundrel was hiding for 2 years, and not only has his strength returned to its former peak, it has exceeded it. He's even more difficult to deal with than he was in the past, and his methods are different, too. His attacks are made of thousands of intersecting threads of energy combined into a dreadful strike, but he used none of the evil arts he used in the past. As Xikong Yuanjia spoke, there was deep shock in his eyes. The demonic emperor had forged his reputation through slaughter, and even after so long, the people of the world of sex still paled at the mention of his name. Many experts of the Righteous Alliance would even start shaking at the knees if they saw Zhang Wenfu. Anyone who was a member of the world of sex feared Zhang Wenfu. That's the myriad spirit sea art. This is the only art in the world of sex that matches up. I heard that he obtained the supreme art in his early years and stored it in his treasury. But even though that art was in his treasury for many years, he never succeeded at cultivating it. He must have encountered some lucky opportunity that allowed him to construct after destruction and successfully cultivate it. Song Yuanyi coldly said, his expression stern and dignified. Buzz. The crowd once more fell into an uproar, exchanging glances of fear and trepidation. Even Xikong Yuanjia appeared shocked. It was clear that Song Yuanyi had never mentioned this to him. On the side, Wang Chong remained unperturbed, but his heart shivered. Song Yuanyi was undoubtedly one of the most formidable and most problematic characters he had ever encountered. With just a few words, he had been able to determine the origins of his master's martial arts. This alone was enough for Wang Chong to understand why his master regarded this man as such a formidable foe. Young Master Qingyang's status is special, and Song Yuan's words are probably not enough to convince him. I will have to be careful for the next few days, Wang Chong noted to himself. Although Song Yuan had spoken up for him, Wang Chong did not believe that these words were enough to trick the Righteous Alliance Lord. But, Alliance Lord, isn't it said that no one has ever been able to cultivate the myriad spirit sea art? And Ji and Du even broke Zhang Wenfu's dantian. How could he still cultivate the myriad spirit sea art after that? An elder asked. I'm not clear on this, but I'm confident that what he used was the myriad spirit sea art, Song Yuanyi lightly said. Ji and Du suddenly spoke, his voice cold and sinister and his face harsh. Alliance Lord, that old scoundrel Zhang Wenfu is sinister and crafty, cruel and callous. Now that we've discovered him, we can't let him escape. And Du requests that Alliance Lord redouble the search efforts. We have to kill Zhang Wenfu. The moon instantly turned strange. Wang Chong gazed at the nearby Ji and Du, thick killing intent flashing through his heart. This bastard had already betrayed his master once, and now he wanted to attack him again. Truly shameless to the extreme. Wang Chong clenched his fists and silently said, I plan to let you live for a little longer, but it seems I'll have to think of a way to remove you now. The other Righteous Alliances also had rather strange expressions as they looked at Ji and Du, hints of contempt in their eyes. Whether one was righteous or evil, those who betrayed their teacher and sect were always looked down upon. While it was logically sound for Ji and Du to want to deal with his former master, on principle everyone looked down on him. But Ji and Du acted like he couldn't see, intentionally ignoring those looks of disdain. He only gazed at Song Yuanyi with an extremely stern look. This is something that we needed to do anyway. But even though the demonic Emperor Zhang Wenfu managed to escape, we didn't come away empty-handed. Afterward, we discovered that the demonic emperor was interacting with a person from the world of sex, and we learned from them some important news. While the demonic emperor was retired, he recruited a new disciple. This disciple isn't very old, only around 17 or 18, and they also cultivate the great Yin-Yang heaven creation art, Song Yuanyi said. Rumble. The Righteous Alliance disciples who had remained at the mountain were flabbergasted by this news, particularly Ji and Du, who raised his head as if someone had given him a sharp jab. What? Ji and Du's pupils constricted, his fists tightly clenched, and his entire body erupted with dangerous energy. Even though he was doing his utmost to restrain himself, his eyes still leaked out intense killing intent and jealousy. This damn old man. Xiandu's mind was bursting with rage. He had never even considered this possibility. The rules of the demonic emperor's lineage were extremely strict, and it had taken an immense effort for him to finally become the demonic emperor's disciple. That old scoundrel usually kept his affairs to himself, but now he had taken on another disciple. This was simply unacceptable to Xiandu. Jealousy became a venomous snake that caused his face to twist with savagery. While Xiandu was overcome with rage, Wang Chong was stunned. The imperial court and the world of sex were two different worlds. The people of the imperial court knew nothing about the world of sex, and the people of the world of sex similarly had little understanding of the court. Thus, even though the demonic emperor old man had already taken action twice, because this had happened on the battlefield, not many people in the world of sex knew about this. His master had also never talked about him to outsiders. So Wang Chong truly did not know how these sect martial artists had managed to learn of the matter. Alliance Lord, is this information to be trusted? After all, given what happened back then, would Zhang Wenfu really take another disciple? A righteous alliance expert walked out of the crowd, and as he spoke, he glanced fearfully at Xiandu, whose face was still twitching in rage. That man had been betrayed by his own disciple. After such an incident, a normal person would have a shadow cast on their heart and be unwilling to take another, and the person in question was cruel and callous, making this even more unlikely. Wang Chong said nothing as he gazed at the righteous alliance lord, Song Yuanyi. Not even he understood how this news had leaked so soon after he had arrived in the northwest. Song Yuanyi said nothing, only glanced at Xikong Yuanjia. Xikong Yuanjia understood and stepped forward. There should be no problem with this information. When we discovered the demonic emperor old man, there was a formation elder at his side. Although this man doesn't have much of a reputation in the world of sex, he is skilled in all kinds of ancient formations. This man was also of great assistance in allowing Zhang Wenfu to escape this time. And when we investigated, we learned that the news of the demonic emperor old man's disciple had been unintentionally revealed by this formation elder while he was chatting with Zhang Wenfu. Based on what that man said, the demonic emperor's new disciple is extremely young but also extremely powerful, and it was easy to see that Zhang Wenfu greatly favored this new disciple of his. On this journey to the northwest, he actually brought this disciple with him. While the demonic emperor and that formation elder went scouting, they left his disciple in the rear. Since this matter was unintentionally revealed by that formation elder, it should not be false. Everyone turned solemn at these words. Xiandu's eyes exploded with even greater killing intent while others began to contemplate this new development. Meanwhile, Wang Chong's mind was reeling. So it's him. Not even if you had beaten him to death would Wang Chong have believed that the leak was from the formation elder. But now that he thought about that man's personality, it truly did seem possible. This is a problem, Wang Chong said to himself. Young Master Qingyang, do you have any thoughts on this? The voice of Song Yuanyi rang out in his ear, and Wang Chong looked up to see that man's eyes and his emotionless face that made it impossible for others to tell what he was thinking. Heh, this one is a wandering crane and cannot possibly understand the matters of the world of sex more than the Alliance Lord. This one has nothing to share. Wang Chong slightly bowed as he calmly replied. Song Yuanyi only smiled inscrutably as he turned his head back around. Strengthen the guard around the mountain. Although the Blackeen ancestor has gone, no one knows when he might come back. We can't give them a single opportunity, Song Yuanyi said. Everyone bowed and loudly replied, Yes, Alliance Lord. Song Yuanyi glanced at Xikong Yuanjia and said, Yuanjia, you have the most experience in this field, so I leave the details to you. Yes, Alliance Lord. Xikong Yuanjia hastily bowed, deep respect on his face. The conference was quickly drawn to a close, and everyone dispersed. Once everyone was gone, Song Yuan suddenly walked over and apologetically said, Young Master, my apologies. I hid my identity from you and did not tell you that I was the daughter of the righteous Alliance Lord. It's a minor matter. Miss Song does not need to worry about it. Wang Chong waved a sleeve and smiled. He was only a little surprised by this matter but did not actually care about it that much. Song Yuran felt much better after hearing Wang Chong say this. Be at ease. Father has already promised me that we will definitely help you search for your bodyguard, Song Yuran said. As the sky darkened, Song Yuran led Wang Chong away to prepare a place to stay for him. Kree. As the Righteous Alliance disciples were busying away on the mountain, the cry of an eagle came from high overhead, though this attracted little notice. In the sky, a large eagle with sharp eyes was circling over the mountain. This eagle did not have the normal black and gold eyes of ordinary eagles, but ones that were totally and frighteningly red. As it looked down from the heavens, the eyes instantly locked onto an azure-robed figure in the crowd, none other than Wang Chong happily chatting with Song Yuran.